Last night's presidential debate illustrated, illustrated a lot of stuff, but one of them was the stark contrast between the two parties and their view of life and babies and children. Now, this comes just as this week as the Family Research Council Center for Human Dignity released an updated issue brief, Born Alive Abortion Survivors, just the facts, and an updated Born Alive protection map. Now, joining me now to discuss this issue and the map and why it is so important to have this information as the November election approaches is Mary Szoch. She is the director for the Center for Human Dignity here at the Family Research Council. Mary, welcome back to Washington Watch.
Thanks so much for having me on, Tony.
So before we get to this report, I want to play a clip from last night where this was a part of the discussion. In fact, it appears that the vice president conflated a lot of different things together, talking about IVF, abortion, health care. And of course, I want to be very clear, health care should not include abortion. Abortion is not health care. But I want to see if you can make sense out of what she had to say. Play clip number 4.
Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working 1 or 2 jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable.
Mary, what's she talking about?
Well, it's really difficult to say because what she said was so incoherent, but it appears that she's trying to convince the American people that IVF is illegal in states where unborn life is protected. I wish that we lived in a world where every child was protected from the moment of fertilization, but that's just not true. And as it stands at this moment, IVF is legal in every state of the country. When she talks about the life issue, Kamala Harris is trying to instill fear in people. But at the same time, she wants to deny the reality that an unborn child is killed in the 7th, 8th, 9th month of pregnancy. Kamala Harris, she doesn't know how the American people feel about unborn children, and she recognizes, though, that she is out of step with it. So she has to lie about these issues.
I mean, it's just bizarre. It's just a bizarre statement that you got to get on a plane and to go get health care. It's just, but I guess that's what happens when you lie about these things. So let's talk about the lie, the big lie of the 2024 election. Last night, I played the clip in the previous segment with Mary Oden that the moderator, Lindsay Davis, says that there's no place in this country where babies are allowed to die after they're born, that's not happening in this country. Let's talk about the release of the report this week here at the Family Research Council.
Again, I wish what she said was true, but that's just not a reality. We released a report this week on babies born alive following an abortion, and with just 8 states reporting. And these reports are done by abortionists who intended to kill the unborn child. There have been reports of 277 babies born alive. And think about that. The person who is making this report is someone who was paid to kill the child. They have every incentive not to report that. So we know that this number is not anywhere near the number of actual babies who survive abortions and then are either left to die or are actively killed.
Mary, let me ask you a question. Is it in their minds this baby doesn't exist and therefore is not allowed to die because they feel like they're aborting that baby? The baby has no right to live. Therefore, if the baby survives, really doesn't matter because we wanted to kill it anyway.
Exactly. And even in Tim Walz's state of Minnesota, they had laws requiring that these babies who were born alive be given healthcare on par with what another baby of the same gestational age would receive. And Tim Walz actually repealed those laws. And in fact, he repealed laws requiring the proper burial of those babies. So he really does want to pretend that these children just don't exist, that they're somehow just pieces of medical waste that can be done away with and thrown in the trash.
Now, very few states require reporting on these numbers. How were you able to get this information?
Well, the states who require the reporting, they issue actually pretty transparent reports of the number of babies who have survived abortions. Some of them require different levels of reporting. There are some that require you to say what the abortionist who was there did, or what the physician who intervened did to help that child. But of the 8 states that require reporting, they do issue actual transparent reports.
Very quickly, to those that would say, "Oh, this isn't infanticide," what would you say?
It's a baby, and it was a baby from the moment that that child was born. And if you want further proof of this, take a look at the DC-5 and take a look at those babies whose remains were recovered there, and look at them and see, gosh, there is no denying that is a little tiny baby who deserves our protection.
Mary Szoch, I want to thank you for joining us today, and a great report. And folks, you can find it at TonyPerkins.com as well. Thank you, Mary.
Thanks for having me on.